Good morning. Good morning. Testing the microphone there for you. Good morning and welcome to Common Thread Church and welcome to what I believe is an ordinary Sunday. If anyone knows different, please raise your hand now and announce it. All right? It's an extraordinary Sunday because it is not 95 degrees out today. So, and a special welcome to all newcomers, whether you're here for the first time or you've been coming for a few weeks or a few months. If you are here with us, you belong with us. Because we are a church that seeks to find support and companionship around the questions instead of the answers in the spiritual life. You newcomers are our life's blood. You keep us practiced in the art of welcoming the stranger. So if you would like to receive our welcome email, please use the link or the QR code, and it will give you everything you need to make your way into the community. We're working on having a drone bring a welcome package to your house. It would be maybe a bottle of champagne, maybe some seasonal fruits. You know. Okay, Jim is on it. We will work on that. Oh yeah, nobody's gonna believe that you're new, Jim. That's not gonna happen. You can be in charge of the drone program though. We are also a community that believes the spiritual journey requires mutual support and companionship. So if you could use some of that these days, please reach out or just find the library down the hall after the service, where every week there is a listener who has completed the self-awareness training and is ready to sit with you. And we've been bringing this up lately, explaining exactly how this works. So walking down a hallway to find someone you've never met for more than 15 seconds to tell them your woes is admittedly a big ask. So we would like to remind you that the self-awareness worksheet is a process that was designed and developed to help you get some space and some distance from whatever afflictive emotions are going on in your life. So the person down the hall who is waiting to help you out with this will show you the worksheet, will explain to you how we go through the worksheet. It's not something you necessarily need to do there with someone. It can simply be something you take with you, you go home and you do it, and then if at a later point you would like to come back and do that with another person, that is also something that the listener would love to do with you. And today, that person, the listener, is Cherie in the back. So please find Cherie down the hall after the service at the library door if you would like to have a listener. So again, welcome. We're so glad to be together, and let us affirm, as we do each week, the nature of our commitment to one another. If you are here, you belong. We are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light. We are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath. And I invite you to rise, to greet one another, and to pass the peace.
Well, hello, live stream friends. We are very glad you're with us today. Very glad you're connecting with us in a screen kind of way. But if you've been watching the live stream, you will have heard us say we'd also like to invite you to connect in a face-to-face way, because spiritual growth happens best when we're together. So that's why we invite you each week to meet some real people, and they're nice people, by the way. In person is a little bit like the difference between watching a beautiful sunset on television or watching it on the beach with someone who is dear to you. So later we're going to invite you to start connecting with other real people. It'll be in the YouTube notes. There'll be a link, and that invitation will be to meet some people, to get to know some people, and then start creating spiritual community in an authentic and online way. Now, in our culture, face-to-face connections, they don't happen easily. We have to make them happen. So we really hope you will accept our invitation, start getting to know one another. We'd love to meet you in person. We'd love to walk on this spiritual path with you. And again, we're very glad you're here. Welcome this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Well, good morning to you too, Doug. Good to see you. So glad you're here as well, Doug. We want to stop what we're doing and listen to you, Doug, because clearly you're the guy with the microphone. So good morning. It is Contemplative Sunday. We'll start practicing the welcome prayer together in a moment, but just to get us ready, let's start by taking 3 breaths together. Ready? Just 3 breaths, and in our minds, each time we breathe in, say the word welcome. Breathe in, welcome. Let's do that 3 times. And let's do it 3 more times. This time, as we breathe in, welcome, and breathe out, I let go. Welcome, I let go. Let's do that 3 times. So that is the prayer. We will practice it together in a moment. And that's all you really need to know. The trick is not knowing the prayer. You heard how simple it is. The trick is remembering to use it when we need to use it. That's the tricky part. And we use it when we are afflicted. We use it when we find ourselves surging with energy. And sometimes that's negative energy, anger energy, or judgment energy, or fear energy. But sometimes it's just to get stuff done energy. Going at a very rapid pace energy. Energy often surges when we are not at peace. And when we are not at peace, that's often an indicator that some ego habit has kicked in and is running things. Some strategy that we picked up a long time ago for how we make it in the world is now running things. So, the prayer is, welcome, inner light, let go, ego strategy. Welcome, inner light, let go, ego strategy. It's a prayer of intention. It's a prayer that says, my intention is to participate with this transformation process that is the spiritual journey. Now, quickly, when we do the welcome prayer, I often want to let people know this because one of the common objections to the prayer is the letting go part. Because it sounds like the letting go part is standing by and letting hurtful things or harmful things or bad things go unchecked or unintervened, which no, that's not why we do the welcome prayer, and that's not what the letting go part is actually about. What it is helping us acknowledge what is. There's a reason we lose our interior peace. There's a reason energy begins to surge up inside of us as we're going through our days. And it's usually because some circumstance or some person or some thing has violated an interior map we have that we carry around unconsciously that tells us the world should be this way. I should be that way. That other person should be the other way. There's some story telling us about the way things should be. What we've learned along the way is that those stories are really just thought habits. They're not reality. They're just habituated ways of thinking. And they get so habituated that they often become compulsive thoughts or compulsive emotional responses. Without us having any part in it, the chemicals that come in response to those circumstances will just surge through our bodies. We will feel the emotion. We will think the thoughts. And the primary reason is because we've done that before. That's the way neurons work. Consequently, we live a lot of our days dominated by thinking habits and acting habits and reacting habits, and they can become compulsions. So the prayer is about breaking that cycle in our daily lives, because those thoughts are less thought than they are instinct. They are less thought than they are reacted. They are less thought than they are mindlessly served. So the prayer helps us break the cycle. Letting go is acknowledging what is and deciding not to mount our everyday, habituated ego response, but instead to come to this moment where my energy is surging, where my emotions are afflictive, and allowing myself a moment for mindfulness, for openness, for curiosity, to invite growth even during one of those surging, automated response moments. So let's practice the welcome prayer together. Go ahead and find a comfortable place in your body. Find a quieter place in your mind. And breathe in, welcome. And breathe out, I let go. Breathe in, welcome. Breathe out, I let go. Welcome. I let go. And as we do when we practice the welcome prayer together, let's take a brief inventory of our day thus far or our week, allowing to come to mind a moment when we felt that energy surging. See if you can picture a time when that happened. Maybe it was negative emotion energy or intensity energy, racing thoughts, racing actions. A moment we started doing the same things we always do, thinking the same thoughts we always think, feeling the same emotional responses we do. We do the welcome prayer today in hindsight. We do it today after the fact. Keeping your moment in mind, we will practice the prayer about that moment earlier today or yesterday or earlier. And we practice that together so that hopefully next week we can practice the prayer in real time. So picturing your moment, feeling and remembering it, giving it some texture, let's begin to practice the prayer together. Remember, it's very simple. Breathe in, welcome. Breathe out, I let go. go of habit reactions. Welcome. Let go of habit thinking. Welcome. Let go of habit emotional response. Spend a few moments. Welcome and let go. An optional part of the prayer, we name common patterns of habit thinking and emotional response. So I will say them and you can repeat them in your mind if you would like to. Welcome. And I let go. Welcome. I let go of my compulsive need for power and control. Welcome. I let go of my compulsive need for safety and security. Welcome. I let go of my compulsive need for affirmation and esteem. Welcome. And I let go of my compulsive need to change the situation. Continue breathing, welcoming, letting go. And indwelling divine, may we be less compulsed by the inner drivers of ego, less driven by the habits in our brains that get stuck in place. May we welcome what is and let go of what need not be. Amen. I often say this after the welcome prayer. This has been one of the most in-the-moment helpful practices that I've engaged. I really do hope you make that part of your day. I hope you remember when you're having one of those compulsed moments to use the prayer. That's the hard part. So a few places to connect in the community in the next week or two. Today, what are you thinking on Zoom? I talked to you all online about that a moment ago. Common Thread Brew Crew happen at Sneaky Penguin. Don't know where Sneaky Penguin is yet, but that's going to happen on the 4th. Artsy Group is happening on the 10th. Centering Prayer Group on the 11th. Drop-in Self-Awareness. Braver Angels Workshop on the 17th. Enneagram Group on the 18th. So Braver Angels, having a chapter here in our own church at this moment in our nation's life is pretty important. It's a big deal having a chapter right here at Common Thread. Because learning to depolarize ourselves is where we start working on the depolarizing process for a nation. learning how to have the interior state and space to have constructive conversations and to have conversation without disrespecting others, but still be able to talk about the things that need talking about, to both listen and talk. That's a very important thing. So this first workshop, we've offered it a few times now, the Depolarizing Within workshop. That's where it has to start. So we would like to get a core of folks in our community who have gone through this, because the process has to start with us before it can start engaging others. So on the 17th, from 9 to 11, if you haven't done this workshop yet, I hope you will. Always, when we rush through things like that, if you miss it, the place to find out the information is on our app, on our website, and if you go open up the Thursday email. Okay, Shelby, come on up. That microphone.
Where should I stand that I can be seen? Because I'm too short for that. Is this okay? Oh, up. Good. Okay. Whoop, 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 whoop. I did not practice this beforehand. Okay. So what kids updates are going to look like moving forward? So last time I kind of went over the newsletter for you guys. We do have the August newsletter ready. It is online and it is in the back lobby area. Next week I'll also put some downstairs, so they're kind of all over the place. But what updates will look like is kind of a few thank yous. I might share some moments from downstairs, some takeaways from the previous month, upcoming dates, and just things to remember, reminders. The hope is that it will help you get a small glimpse into what we are doing downstairs. The newsletter you can read on your own also, and it will give more specifics week to week, what we're doing, the themes, that kind of thing. And it also has some things to practice at home in it. But yeah, so hopefully I will be able to share some stories with you all as we move forward each month, just to let you know what's going downstairs. Right now, I will just give you a brief glimpse into what I've seen over the last month. So my thank yous are, we have a big new blue rug downstairs. That was a donation, so that's awesome. I've got a doorknob on the office that locks. We've got event supplies rolling in. Some friends took some pillows and loveys home to put in the washing machine, and it was truly amazing to put out like fresh, fluffy, clean pillows. So honestly, that is a huge thank you for volunteering opportunity that anyone can do anytime. Feel free to take some loveys home and wash them. So just helping maintain our space. We're consistently reworking down there. So all of those things really were a big plus. So thank you to everybody who has come down. I've also seen a plus in volunteers, so I really appreciate that. Everybody's welcome. I have seen new kids. I have seen some more consistent kids. We've been a little hit and miss this summer, but I'm really thankful to see new faces coming in and people returning. So that's been fun. I've seen kids making friends and growing in their friendships together. I have seen parents making friends, which is always a lot of fun for me. I have seen people utilizing our space downstairs. I totally love that. I've seen people just hanging out and chatting after church, really kind of utilizing the resources that we have. I've seen kids coming into their own and leading each other, and I think I've just been here long enough that I'm seeing them grow up, and I'm like, no. It's very sweet. But seeing them do that, growing up, leading each other, just feeling comfortable and settled in their space and taking more ownership of it, and being more comfortable in themselves. That's something I've really noticed. And all of that really tied into last month's virtue / theme, which was friendship. So I really saw friendship play out a whole lot with kids and parents. Inside look into what we're doing. So we do have some more consistent resources that we're using. I really pull from all over with the programming, but there are certain book series and things that we've used a lot of, and I would really love to share those. I'm hopefully going to set up some sort of thing where I would love for parents to borrow any resources that we have, and so hopefully I'll make that a little bit more accessible for you moving forward. That's a goal of mine. It's just to share what resources that we use. And our biggest takeaway for the friendship virtue was that friends should make you feel safe and supported and like yourself. I feel that here. I think the kids do too, and I hope that you do also. Upcoming things Thrive is canceled. We're not doing it today. They probably already said that. It was just too darn hot. I was the only one holding on to it. Everybody else was like, let it go. So I'm like, okay, sorry guys. So we'll do it sometime when it's cooler. The idea really is to get everybody engaged though, right? So my goal as the family ministry, whatever, is to have all ages have fun together and do some things together and participate and just let your inner kid out, whether or not you have kids. So that will be coming one day, but the biggest upcoming date is August 25th. Make sure you save that date. Please try to come out that day. It's going to be really awesome. That is our middle school move up ritual. We have 7 kids moving from 5th grade to 6th grade. So we have 7 kids that are going to be going to the teen group. That is huge. So please come. Please celebrate them with us. We'll just be celebrating them in church that morning. And after church, if you need more incentive to come, I'll have ice cream for you. So it's also going to be back to school Sunday. The kids will get little goodie bags just for being like, yay, you're going back to school. We're still here. Don't be nervous. But ice cream is for everybody. It's literally just very informal. We'll just hang out and fellowship, make some little ice cream sundaes, and go about our days after that. So that's that. Again, the newsletter is in the lobby, and it is on our app in the kids group. If you're not in that and you're a parent, please join or connect with me if you don't know how to do that. The end.
So, where we are in the tapestry of time. We just finished a lesson about what we owe one another. The short answer is virtue. The Tao, C.S. Lewis called it. We owe one another love, and we owe one another all the virtues that emerge from love and the commitments that come of virtue. Well, today what I'd like to do is put that notion into a historical context. I use the word history and historical a lot, and I still do not know, is it a historical or an historical? What is it? No, it's not. It starts with it's a or an. A historical context? You sure it's not an? But I see an written all the time. It is an? It is a. Who cares? Who cares? What are you big? Yeah, that's what I would think. A, but I mean a space historical. How about that? Yes. Say that again? So if someone uses the word historical without the H sound, well, then those people are just being dumb because it's written right there. Okay. Anyway, let's put this notion of the Tao into a historical context. But also, let's put it into a you and me context, our lives, how we go to work, how we live in our homes, how we live here in our spiritual community, and let's think about that together as well. So I just did a video introducing the online course that I've been talking to you all about. And by the way, the pilot group is about to start. It's going to start in mid to late August, and if you haven't, but you would like to be part, click the box, and I will tell you, you can do right if you can catch it in time. You can use the QR code, but more likely just go to the app, the front page, housekeeping, or go to our website /housekeeping. Well, in this introductory video that I was doing about the course, I said this: if you are reimagining spiritual community, I want to stand with you, and I want to support you, and I want to help you succeed, because much of the pain that's going on in our nation today. Not all of it, but a fair share of it, much of the hate and the ugliness, our inability to respect one another, to see one another, can be traced to the breakdown over the last 70 years or 100 years, depending on when you start counting, the breakdown of healthy spiritual communities in the Western context and in particular in the Christian context. Throughout human history, our spiritual communities have been where we have both warehoused and transmitted to successive generations the Tao, the path, the way. Universal, timeless human principles that transcend culture, that transcend any specific religion, that are found across history and found across civilizations, found deep within our own humanity, deep within our own human awareness. There are core foundations, and these foundations, usually seen as virtue, guide how we live, and they guide how we love, and they guide how we educate, and how we govern, and they guide how we do business. And healthy spiritual communities have been where we have warehoused and held on to and transmitted to successive generations these universal human principles. Spiritual communities have been where we have done our moral education and trained ourselves and then trained our children to align our lives and to align our habits, even to align our desires with the core human universal principles. Consequently, when spiritual communities fail, and in the West in particular, when churches fail and have failed, instruction in and integration with the path, the Tao, doesn't happen. Now, again, that's not the only factor, but it's an important factor in our social disintegration. So, I say to the folks in the video, by the way, I didn't say all of that stuff because it's a 1-minute video. You can't fit all that stuff in. But I said, folks who are reimagining spiritual community, I want you to succeed. Given what I've learned about reimagining spiritual community and where we are in history, one of the best things that I can give to the world that my grandchildren are going to inhabit is a roadmap and some assistance and support in figuring out what healthy spiritual communities are going to be like. Because that is a deep human need. We are communal and we are spiritual. And when we don't have contexts in which to be both communal and spiritual, we have a lacking, glaring need. So the need will be met one day. We have to. If we don't, we just keep getting more of the same shit we've been getting. Now, what we've been doing together, common thread, for the last 30 years is not the final word on what healthy spiritual community will be like, but it is a step forward. I think it's a very beautiful step forward, and my hope is to give a good start to other leaders leading other spiritual communities so that they can go further, get us closer to the day when spiritual community is once again able to play the role that it has played as one of the 5 core social institutions. We live in a moment in time when the old way of being spiritual community has been unraveled. And the new way of being spiritual community has not yet emerged, which makes our work in our time the work of exploring and mapping, Lewis and Clark-like, finding out what's out there, finding out what works, finding out what doesn't work, writing it down, and telling other folks. Now, to be fair, it isn't just religion that isn't working. None of the 5 core social institutions are particularly healthy. Government, education, business, family, religion, none of those 5 core institutions is doing well in our society right now because our society is undertaking a huge collective project. We are together, most of us don't even know we're doing it, but we're participating in this huge collective project, deconstructing our culture. It took us centuries to build the culture that we inherited, And we are now deconstructing it. Now, a little bit we're starting to reconstruct, but mostly we are just making sure that we don't follow the ways that we have followed. We're unraveling long-standing norms and practices. Many who have been out, it is now becoming culturally inappropriate to leave them out. They are being invited in. We are unraveling gender roles. We are unraveling what family means. We are unraveling how we work and what we want work to be, how we communicate and how we learn and how we participate or how we don't participate. And as happens, when you're going to make a change with something as substantive as that, the first thing you have to do is deconstruct what was. I've spoken many times about how quantum physics has challenged our basic assumptions about the world we live in, and now the institutions that we built on top of those assumptions are starting to unravel because, we've got a different worldview. Well, I'd like to talk about the same principle today, but look at it from a very different angle, through the lens of what makes a culture, and in particular, what has made our American culture. Because I think forewarned will help us be forearmed. If we know what's happening around us, we will know how to live as fruitful human beings in this moment in time. So as our society is reimagining, rethinking our culture, we are having to go to the very basis of core organizing principles, and that is uncomfortable. When you go as deeply into the visceral, unconsciously held concepts that have guided a culture, and you don't get there at the same time and think the same thoughts, that's what leads to a lot of the division, a lot of the fragmenting, a lot of the hating, and a lot of the demonizing of one another. Because when you are in the process of discarding once agreed upon organizing principles, and you don't yet have a new set of agreed upon organizing principles, it's a very frightening time, and we haven't been behaving particularly well. But disagreement's kind of baked into the system. That's what happens when you start taking things that we once agreed upon and you start saying we don't any longer agree on those things. We're going to build a different way of being. Now, this isn't the first time this big a project has happened. It's not the first time that we have been reimagining a culture. And the other times that it has happened throughout history, spiritual communities, religion in particular, has had an important role in that transitional process. And this time, not so much. Religion, spiritual community, has had that core societal function of warehousing and transmitting core beliefs and core principles and core values, but that has not been happening in our time because Western religion is in ruins. Western religion has grown very, very ill, which makes our society culture rethinking project a little bit more difficult because one of the players is not at the table. So a little bit about our American culture, some context to help us think about how we might participate in the rebuilding project. This guy, James Hunter, is a professor of religion and culture and social theory at UVA. And this book, Solidarity, or Democracy and Solidarity, says this: cultural components in American society have for a long, long time allowed a fractious form of American solidarity. Two key words there: fractious, kind of been our way, and solidarity. But he says the solidarity parts have been evaporating for quite some time now. Consequently, our problem isn't just political polarization, it's that we have a root problem. We don't have shared cultural assumptions. We don't have the tools with which one builds, with which a society builds solidarity. So the work of this Lewis and Clark exploring moment is to try and figure out together what could be shared organizing principles. what could be the way to draw from the wisdom of the past, to understand what those who have gone before us have understood, and to integrate that into a new world that has new insights and begin to create new, shared, agreed upon organizing principles. And that's the work of the time that we got to be born onto the earth. You don't have to do that in every generation, but you do need to do that in our generation. We are exploring what could possibly be shared assumptions about what is right and what is wrong, what makes a good person, what makes a good society. Now, here's the culture that we used to have that was both fractious and existed in solidarity. That culture drew from two important sources, two sources that have been in tension with one another. And it turns out, if you'll remember in the last lesson, we talked about dialectical tension. The idea that you've got two different ideas and they're in competition with one another and you have to figure out how to make those two things work together, that often creates dynamism. And sure enough, our American culture has been filled with dynamism. We've been able to do a lot of things because we have held this tension. But the problem is tension is tense. It's always been a bumpy ride to be in American culture. But it has been a solidarity kind of bumpy ride. So here's the first set of principles. This is the first source from which we have drawn American culture. It's from the Enlightenment, a thinking revolution that happened in the 1600s and the 1700s. Can you all see that? Can you see those words? It looks awfully small back there. Here's what we Americans took from the Enlightenment. We took a strong commitment to reason. We have prized individualism. We have valued personal rights, and we have valued personal liberty. And as a society, we've been a skeptical bunch, especially skeptical of external dogmas that someone would try and impose upon us, even external institutions that would try and tell us what to do or what to think. We have also, not lately of course, but in our history, we have been a pretty tolerant bunch, because once you decide that you prize personal liberty, once you decide that you don't want somebody else telling you what you can and cannot do, or someone else infringing on your liberty, you have to be tolerant of others because we want them to tolerate us, so we have learned to tolerate them. Voltaire, one of those Enlightenment guys, said, "I may not agree with you, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it." So a set of values that have informed American culture derived from the Enlightened, values designed to maximize the enjoyment of personal freedom. That has been a bedrock influence in American culture. And that bedrock influence has existed alongside a seemingly contradictory bedrock influence. I've called it the Tao, but really it's just Americans' fierce commitment to religious life. The Tao, these universal principles that we've been talking about this lesson and the last lesson, our society has warehoused those mostly in churches. Ours has been a deeply religious society. It goes all the way back to the Puritans, it goes all the way back to the Quakers, to the Great Awakening in the 1700s, to the creative tension between the fundamentalists and the social gospel, the modernist debates. We have venerated the Bible. We have had a high commitment to religion, and that has been where we have accessed the core values of the Tao. The centrality of religion has been an important part of American culture. The centrality of spiritual community has been an important part of American culture. That's where we have transmitted our human obligations to a reality bigger than self, to family, and our commitment to truth, and to community, and to a higher power, to virtue, to extend to one another. Now, let's be honest. Our spiritual communities did a lot of other stuff too, stuff we cannot be proud of. We rejected others who were not part of our group. We entertained, we sometimes advocated small-mindedness. We debased women, we debased people of color, we debased queer folk. We've been corrupted by power, we've been corrupted by money, and we've been corrupted by favored social status. All of that also. But in addition to all of that, what we did in our cultural foundation was we transmitted a set of virtues, a shared foundation of morality, a commitment to the arc of history bending toward justice. Now, I am old enough to remember that. Remember it happening week after week after week in my Sunday school classes. That was a big part of my early church experience, being taught virtue, being taught my obligation to a widening set of concentric circles that I cared for my own soul, and then for my family, and then for my community, and then for the world. So those two things have been foundations of American culture, and you can see how they exist in tension. Our enjoyment of personal liberty and our obligation to practice virtue with one another. Now again, holding those two in tension has been a source of vitality and dynamism for our culture. It has been an invitation to creativity, to figure out how to make both of those work, which has allowed us to see things that we had not seen. Each successive generation has grappled with both personal liberty and communal commitments. And then American religion began to unravel. And then American religion began to fall into ruins for good reasons. We've highlighted what those reasons are. We understand it. We're not advocating going back to the way it once was. But American spiritual communities failed to adapt to a changing reality. American spiritual communities fell prey to the corrupting power of power. American spiritual communities fell prey to the corrupting power of money. American spiritual communities fell prey to the corrupting power of social status. And right now, and rightly so, seeing the corruption, American society has rejected American religion. And again, for very good reason. However, one of the byproducts of that process is that now there is no institution in our society that warehouses and transmits the Tao. Because it has emerged that reason and skepticism, these core values of the Enlightenment, are not robust enough to have developed a moral foundation for an agreed-upon set of values in a society. Also, as institutions go, government has not taken up the task. Education hasn't taken up the task. Business hasn't. Even family is so overrun, it's difficult. Now, religion has been my life. Spiritual community has been my life. So I feel pretty qualified to say that a lot of the ugliness in our society, a lot of it is our fault. Because we failed to adapt to a changing world and a changing worldview. We allowed ourselves to become corrupted by the siren song of power and money and status. We left our society with a gaping void instead of doing what we exist to do. Instead of bringing what we have to the table, we circled the wagons, we began to protect ourselves from external assault, we became insular, we became hostile, and we became corrupt. And we, the spiritual communities, are our society's best hope of finding shared virtue values. So here we are at this moment in this overarching tapestry of time, and what has fallen to us being born in the time we were born is the essential task of restoring the tension. Now, there's some people out there who speculate that Enlightenment values are going to eventually prove to be inadequate. And that might be, I don't know. But I'm not in a hurry to give up reason, and I'm not in a hurry to give up personal liberty, and I'm not in a hurry to give up tolerance. But I do know that when individualism is not held in tension with the Tao, what we've been doing, that doesn't work. So it becomes incumbent upon us, spiritual communities like us, to be about the work of restoring the foundation, restoring our shared moral commitments one to another and to our neighbors and to our community, and to do it in a way that is not narrow-minded, to do it in a way that is not exclusionary, to do it in a way that is not about us and screw everybody else. So in that book I mentioned a minute ago, the author said that Martin Luther King in many ways represented the high water mark of that cultural tension, because he used the Tao that most Americans learned in their churches to point the way toward fulfilling our Enlightenment ideals, that we have a moral, divine duty to make sure everyone enjoys the benefits of freedoms. But in the years since Martin Luther King, that cultural tension has been increasingly eroding because the Tao has been increasingly not spoken for. So, those whose role it is to speak for the Tao stopped. And that's where we are in this historical moment. We are at a low water point in our religion. We are at a low water point in our spiritual communities. And we are at a point so far down, it seems quite likely that the only way we can go is up. So there's some good news. When you take an ownership stake in Common Thread, you're taking an ownership stake in the work of rebuilding shared organizing principles for a society. Doesn't feel like that. It feels like we're just a small community right here on the outskirts of Raleigh. I mean, who would think that what we're doing has that kind of historical import? But here's what you will notice we have not been doing as a community. We've not been circling the wagons and making sure that our doctrine is right, making sure that our behaviors are right, making sure that each other straighten up and fly right, making sure that we practice fidelity to the religion that we inherited so that we can be faithful to the past. Here's what we have been doing. We've been Lewis and Clarking it. We've been exploring what might be. We've been exploring what could be shared assumptions. So when you show up and work the circle, when you help organize a picnic or a potluck so that we could practice together social belonging, or do a life story group or a book club so we could practice personal belonging, or participate in self-awareness or conflict resolution or Enneagram so that we can practice in those spaces deep belonging, when you meditate with others so that we can help one another be steadfast in our meditation practice, when you learn with others, when you serve alongside one another, something bigger than ourselves, when you open your heart to others, when we live in the mutuality of our commitments one to another, when we help one another not just get out of pain, but trying to get out of pain what we need to get out of pain, when you create the space where we can talk about our shit and still belong after we do, when we don't gossip about one another, when we do look for the best in one another, when you show up to serve the broader society, but also to work on the systems that cause harm in our society, when we struggle together to not follow the path of polarization that everyone else is following, when we try our best to see the divine light in the other, when we take an ownership stake in restitching the torn fabric of community, here at Common Thread, doing it in your neighborhood, doing it at your job, what you are doing is participating in a historical moment, working to restore what has been broken and to heal what has grown very, very ill. We are participating together in our common thread, here, now, small, doable way, participate in the healing of our society. It's an important moment in history. We have an important job in this important moment in history. And so, indwelling divine, may our society be healed. And may we, each of us, be part of that healing. You've heard me quote this before. I think it applies. I don't know how many snowflakes it takes to break a branch, but I want to be one. So indwelling divine, may we be one. Amen. Well, those of you online, we're going to dismiss you now. You heard me earlier invite you to click the link. We really hope you do. You will look in the YouTube notes. If you look in the note, you will see two links. One is for right now. If you happen to be live at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, you could go to What Are You Thinking Right Now? There will be a group of less than 10 people, and they will be there having a conversation about what we just talked about. And they will be very embracing of you. They will be very inviting. They will invite you to get to know each other. They will introduce you. And then after that, you can get to have a discussion, and you are welcome to just listen in if you'd like. I hope you will do that if you're here live. If you're not here live, I hope that next Sunday, we'll be doing it again, you do show up so you could be there live, because it's one of the best ways to get to know some people. But also, we do a whole bunch of other things. We do life story groups online. We just do about everything we do in person, we do online. And so there's another link there that says, tell me more about what you do in an online way to form community. I hope you'll click one of those links. Let's dismiss the folks online. If you would, please put your hand on your heart, and let's remember as we go that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. Love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness, they are within us, for we are carriers of the inner light. And if you would, extend your other hand to our city. Let's look for opportunities to share what's already in us with the people that we live and work and go to school with, looking for opportunities to repair and to heal our worlds. Amen. God bless you all. You are dismissed. What are you thinking about? What's stirring up in your heart?